Welcome on board the most unusual flight in the United States. First off, it's got 5 stops along the way in some of the most remote parts of Alaska. But why does this flight even exist, and why are there so many stops?
Hello Jet Setters, I'm Jeb Brooks from greenergrass.com. This is Alaska's Milk Run, and you're coming along.
Here's the plan. We'll start our day in Seattle and fly to Ketchikan. From there, we'll make a short flight over to Wrangell, and then take the shortest commercial flight in the United States up to Petersburg. We'll continue on to Alaska's capital, Juneau, before our final push into Anchorage. All in, that's just shy of 1,500 miles.
Now, a non-stop flight from Seattle to Anchorage takes about 3 hours. We're going to spend 9 hours today getting from Seattle to Anchorage. A lot of fun along the way, too. Maybe.
The Milk Run earned its name from its history of delivering vital goods, like milk, to the small towns in southeast Alaska between Seattle and Anchorage. It's worth saying that today there are several Milk Run routes, but we chose Alaska Flight 65 because it makes the most stops and we naturally wanted to maximize our fun. But we first needed to fortify ourselves for the long day ahead, so we made our way over to the lounge. We were grateful for the breakfast buffet, but there was one main reason we came in.
Can you think of a better place to eat breakfast? I mean, look at this view.
We're booked into first class today, and in the past, an Alaska Airlines first class ticket granted access to the lounge. Unfortunately, that's no longer guaranteed. We got in thanks to my American Airlines credit card. Because some of the runways along our route are fairly short and demand is relatively low, the Milk Run is operated by the smallest airplane in Alaska's mainline fleet, the 737-700, just like this one. It's my favorite variant of the 737 due to its good looks.
Alaska Airlines Milk Run is a lifeline for many smaller towns between here and Anchorage. Today, we'll make 5 flights and 4 stops before reaching our final destination of Anchorage. The only flight where we expect food is our first flight, our longest one, and it just says snack. We don't really know what that means. And then we've got, 7, 8 more hours after that, whatever it is. So we stopped at the store here and picked something up. Also, gotta hydrate. If you're an aviation enthusiast like me, and let's face it, you probably are because you're watching this video, there's certain flights that are just so high up on your bucket list. There's United Flight 154 through the Pacific, the United Island Hopper. There's the Air France Island Hopper, of course, through the Caribbean. And then also, there's this one, the Alaska Airlines Milk Run. But let me know in the comments below, what am I missing? What other iconic aviation bucket list flights are there? I cannot wait to get on board and share it with you. And speaking of, let's board this bird.
Next stop, Anchorage. Sort of, eventually. We'll see.
I had no idea how prescient that statement would prove to be. Our 737-700 has been upfitted with Alaska's newest interior and will certainly be a comfortable place to spend the day.
This new Alaska Airlines first class is nice, but I miss the old school carpet at the front. Remember that? I love that.
These first class seats offer plenty of legroom, enough space for my overstuffed backpack, a footrest, and 2 power sockets, which I'm going to need. I'll be working my camera like crazy on today's flight, or I guess flights. By the way, we'll have the same cabin crew the entire day, so we'll get to know them well. The pilots will switch out in Juneau, though.
I'm settling in to this seat for the long haul.
Alaska Airlines catering is outlined here, and there's also a preview of the in-flight entertainment I'll check out later. I was watching bags and dogs get loaded and noticed that our suitcases have been pulled aside. I suppose they'll get loaded in the back since we're going all the way to Anchorage today, or so we thought. This first leg to Ketchikan should take about an hour and a half at 36,000 feet, and as we pushed back, we started a clock. Our 9-hour adventure through southeast Alaska begins now. Leaving Seattle behind means making our way to a much more rural part of the world. Our first stop, Ketchikan, has a population of only about 8,000 people, but it's not the smallest place we'll visit today. That award goes to Wrangell. Alaska Airlines offers paid Wi-Fi, but I just signed in for the free messaging. There are also plenty of complimentary streaming, TV, and movies, but as usual, I brought my own entertainment. That said, it's not like there's a lack of things to see out the window for this entire journey. Service began with drinks about 45 minutes after we'd taken off. Suzanne had some tea, but I just went with a glass of what Paul Stewart would call cloud juice. Despite Alaska's impressive menu for flights like this, we were never given the opportunity to pre-order. And then, once we were on board, the flight attendant told us it hadn't been catered anyway. Despite these challenges, though, she did a nice job of taking the fruit and cheese platters for sale and economy and presenting them beautifully to us. Before too long, our descent into Ketchikan began. We made our way through this thick cloud layer to discover the beautiful, rugged, and unforgiving Alaska coastline below. Like many of the places we'll see along this journey, Ketchikan has no road access to the outside world, making these flights a vital part of their survival. At one point in the not-so-distant past, Alaska Airlines operated 737-400 Combi airplanes on these routes. The front half was for cargo, the back for passengers. But these days, they operate separate aircraft for these two missions.
Welcome to Ketchikan, the salmon capital of the world. We really weren't sure whether we were going to be able to get off at all this day, but thankfully it's first stop here in Ketchikan we were, so it's nice to get out and stretch our legs a bit. We'll reboard just as though we're getting on the flight that goes on to Wrangell like anybody else, but it's nice to be out and see a new airport terminal. We're always looking to add airports to our list of visits, and this is our first time here, and we're glad to be here. Each of these stops is about 45 minutes. There are 2 gates here at this terminal, and this is one of the larger airports we're going to visit all day. This is crazy, I've never seen this. The airplane's down here, the runway's all the way up there. The grade is just massive. You can only have a taxiway at like a 1.5% grade, so it's a long taxiway to get down here. Crazy. Next stop, Wrangell.
Back on board, but not without a memory from this stop.
Picked up a souvenir for from our visit here to Ketchikan, our precious memories. I'll never forget you.
You see those mountains?
I did not see the mountains. I did not catch a fish, but I was there.
And we'll be back. Keep an eye on our channel for some epic Alaska scenery. And while you're at it, maybe you'll want to tap the subscribe button so you don't miss scenes like these. But back to present day. This leg is 28 minutes at 16,000 feet.
It's only 82 miles, not the shortest leg we'll have today by far, but still a pretty short trip up to Wrangell.
With a population around 2,000 people, Wrangell is the smallest town on our itinerary today. It also has the shortest runway of the day. At only 6,000 feet, it's about half the length of the runway we took off on in Seattle. Today, we think of Alaska Airlines as a major domestic player on the airline landscape, but its roots are firmly planted in this type of rugged, essential service for the communities that need it, like this.
Welcome to Wrangell.
We were not able to get off of the plane here, but the terminal building doesn't have much in the way of amenities, so we were fine to stay on board, gaze at these beautiful mountains, and watch precious cargo get loaded. And after around 45 minutes on the ground, we were ready to go again.
At 31 miles, this is our shortest leg. It'll take us 13 minutes to reach our next stop, Petersburg.
We'll only climb to 5,000 feet on this leg, which, by the way, is the shortest commercial flight in the United States. If you wanted to travel by ferry between these two towns, well, that'll take 3 hours. But this 13-minute flight is not only a lifeline and connection to the world beyond, but also a time saver. This part of Alaska has some of the most significant tides in the world. In fact, they average around 30 feet. We even spotted our very first glacial ice as we made our approach into Petersburg. Our landing here was a memorable one thanks to the water on the runway. Combined with the 737's reverse thrust, it made for a visually impressive experience.
Welcome to Petersburg.
As noon neared and the people heading to Petersburg deplaned, Suzanne and I decided to open up the lunches we'd gotten back in Seattle. By this point in the journey, we'd already memorized the safety briefing, but we still paid attention.
29 minutes, over to Juneau.
And we'll cruise at 20,000 feet for this leg. Passengers today are a mix of locals returning home, workers in the fishing industry commuting, adventurous tourists, and 2 slightly nerdy aviation enthusiasts with a camera and a desire to share this experience with you. As we made our way into Juneau, we had no idea what was in store for us.
Welcome to Juneau.
This is it. 4 flights down, 1 left to go to Anchorage. I'm fading a little bit. What about you?
I'm feeling pretty good. This is exciting. I mean, this is like aviation enthusiast heaven, but it is a long day. I'm glad we have packed some lunch with us.
Absolutely. It was key to have lunch. The last 3 flights have been too short for any kind of service, drinks or food or snacks or anything. So definitely bring your own food.
I think it's about time to get back on board, so let's go get ready to do that.
Might be time to finally celebrate with a gin and tonic. What do you think?
I think that said can be arranged.
It's time for it.
Next stop, Anchorage.
We took our seats and were told to settle in for another short flight. But wait, that's not what happened.
So we just were deplaned because the flight had been canceled, and we got out, and they've just announced that it's just a mechanical delay. They should know more in 45 minutes. But regardless, we're back in Juneau.
Just stepping off of flight 65, we are on a delay, mechanical delay.
But sure enough, that mechanical delay turned into a mechanical cancellation, and we were instructed to head downstairs and get in line to sort out our onward travel. This 9-hour trip was going to be a lot longer than we thought. While waiting in line, we tried to text with Alaska Airlines customer support, but they didn't seem to understand the milk run and could not help us.
Okay, Jet Setters, just a quick update. We have been rebooked, but not until tomorrow. There's another flight tonight, but that had already filled up by the time they got to us. So we're leaving tomorrow morning. That's okay. They're folks with more pressing needs than we have, so we'll spend a night here in Juneau before heading on to Anchorage tomorrow first thing in the morning.
Alaska Airlines put us up in a hotel and provided us with some meal vouchers. That meant we had a surprise afternoon to spend exploring Juneau.
Thank you, Alaska Airlines, for making it possible for us to explore Juneau, something we didn't think we were going to get to do. So I guess that's the silver lining, huh?
I was most surprised by the size of these cruise ships down at the harbor. Seeing them really whet my appetite for what's to come. You see, we're about to spend an entire week exploring more of this region on board that very ship right there. And that means this won't be our last visit to Juneau. And after a short sleep, we were back at the airport where we checked in and dropped off our bags.
Back where we started. This time it's true. Hopefully.
Just like most of the passengers from yesterday's canceled flight, we decided to use our meal vouchers for breakfast here. Unfortunately, each passenger with a $12 voucher had to manually enter the numbers from each voucher into a credit card machine. This was a slow process, but we finally made it through and were able to enjoy breakfast before boarding.
Next stop, Anchorage. Finally.
First class was full on this flight, so we'd been downgraded to economy, but we're grateful for the flight to Anchorage at all, even if we were without a window seat for this leg.
You ready for the last leg?
Better late than never. But wait, are we going to have to do the milk run all over again?
You let us know in the comments. We have to do it again?
These seats are comfortable, and it's always good to see a power source here anyway. And as we crossed the 24-hour mark, the captain made a surprising announcement.
You look down, you see your bag getting unloaded. Do not despair. Apparently, they have a discrepancy. They're showing several bags. They're showing a lot of bags that are not on the aircraft. I think it's due to some reason the scanners didn't accept them. So what they're going to have to do is offload all the bags on the plane and rescan them to ensure that your bags actually got on the aircraft.
This is a first. I've never had this happen, and apparently it's all down to the scanners not scanning the bags. Hopefully this won't take too long, but I'm guessing about an hour.
And my guess was about right. We were finally on our way as we passed the 25-hour mark of this 9-hour trip. Our final push into Anchorage will take about an hour and a half at 35,000 feet. Service on this leg included Biscoff and a choice of a drink. I chose water, and Suzanne slept. As we make our way into Anchorage, let's rate the experience using the JebScore. We'll consider the lounge, the seat, the food, the in-flight entertainment, and the service, focusing, of course, on that first-class portion. I'll also leave you with some parting thoughts about the irregular operation and the service recovery, along with the price we paid, of course. First, the Alaska Lounge we visited in Seattle is not their flagship space, but it was still impressive. 4 stars here. The seats were comfortable enough for what would have been a 9-hour trip, and having power at each one and a footrest is a real treat. 4 stars here. I was sorry to learn that the flight had not been catered. Apparently, we could have had a more substantial breakfast on our first leg. Still, I was impressed that the flight attendant made something happen. But unfortunately, this only earns 2 stars. In-flight entertainment was solid with streaming and Wi-Fi availability, but without built-in screens, that could only be worth 4 stars. Finally, service. I really liked the crew on our original flight. They were positive and upbeat. They really left me with a sense that they were excited about providing great service. 5 stars to them. Now, we paid $990 each for this experience, and after the cancellation, Alaska provided us with a hotel room and gave each of us $24 worth of meal vouchers. They also sent us a future flight credit of $100 each. We also received a refund of $234 for the downgrade on that final leg, but we had to call to request that. Irregular operations are a fact of life for airlines, and they always do their best to recover as quickly as possible. I feel like Alaska recovered as well as could be expected in this situation. We finally arrived in Anchorage about 17 and a half hours late, and despite our delay, the Milk Run was a ton of fun and earns 19 out of a possible 25 stars. We never did find out the specific cause of our mechanical cancellation, but it's a reminder of the rugged and challenging environment of the Milk Run. It also made me grateful for the Alaska Airlines professionals who make it happen. In spite of the hiccups, I'm so glad to have added this to the list of experiences Suzanne and I have shared.
You know, as much as we fly, it's surprising that kind of thing doesn't happen more often, but thankfully it doesn't. Between now and the next time, see you in the sky.
Welcome to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport.
We're going to be spending 9 hours on board today instead of a 3-hour nonstop to Anchorage.
Should have planned ahead and gone to the dollar store. Whoops. Begins and ends here. Just to be clear, begins and ends here. It's massive. Look at the size of it. You want to try it out?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's not always first class. It's not.